Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics / Non-Classics. This is episode number 1086 and Doubleshot number 980. Yep, I got one Marvel trade and one DC trade. Let's start with the Marvel trade. This is the first of two trades to collect this series because this was a short-lived series. It was part of that initiative that came out after the very mixedly received Inhumans vs. X-Men, a series that nobody cared for at all, but this series is fantastic. Though I think it was stupid, I'm not sure who did this. It puts this series on that list of basically what people thought was extreme feminist series, along with America, which I do believe that one was. This series, Hawkeye, which was stupid. Why would you put Hawkeye on that damn list? Because that was Kate Bishop. That was a damn good series. There was a few others, but this series had no right to be on that list at all because just like with Hawkeye, it's not a terrible series. It's really good. Written by Dennis Hopeless. This is Jean Grey. Yes. Here's kind of the interesting thing about this character. She's had a couple of team-up miniseries with Cyclops, but never a solo book before. No, she's had like a one-shot featuring the Phoenix, but a solo series? Wow, this was quite interesting. I mean, this was a good experiment by Marvel. Kudos for Marvel actually going through with this. But surprisingly, the series ended after just 11 issues. Which, here's kind of the strange thing about this particular book. This is basically like, what was Jean Grey doing when she was not with the X-Men Blue book? That's the whole point of this series. Though people probably saw it as simply like a team-up book. Kind of like what All New Wolverine did when the series first started. The first arc was simply like a team-up book, and afterwards became its own thing. People thought it was the same thing for Jean Grey. That's probably the reason why they got turned off by it. Though she gets to meet various characters over the course of these issues, please team up with them. People like Psylocke, Thor, Namor. Heck, there's even one issue, and I love this, where the second issue of the series, the cover is a homage to X-Men number 4. Yeah, look at this cover and tell me that is not a homage to X-Men, Candy X number 4 from 1964. Tell me this is not a homage to that very cover. Yep. And here's something quite interesting about this particular book, is that this book bought the feature Illyana Rasputin as a character in a book, because for some strange reason, I have no idea why in the world this was. Illyana Rasputin was part of the X-Men lineup since I think 2010. She part of the lineup for 7 years. And then for some strange reason, after Humans vs. X-Men, let's not bother to put her in any lineup of any book. I mean, none of them. Not even Astonishing X-Men by the feature, which I thought that was weird. So, put her in this book for some strange reason. Though she's being featured in one of the books now. Yep. And the whole point of the series is that, okay, this first arc, they're teasing the return of the Phoenix Force. Yes, the actual Phoenix Force. Which this is probably the first the Phoenix Force is making an appearance. Now, it did make an appearance in the pages of Thor, which that's referenced in here. But the only appearances... Now, here's kind of the strange thing about this. The Phoenix Force was sort of decimated, at least destroyed, during the events toward the end of Avengers vs. X-Men. After that, it's only popped up in 3 books. Or at least brought up anyways. It was brought up in pages of Iron Man. It was brought up in this book. And brought up in The Mighty Thor. Which I'm thinking, that's not bad. Though it was featured very recently after this in pages of the Avengers, which I thought that was interesting. Probably because it's a follow-up to Marvel Legacy number, which Jason also wrote that as well. Though the whole point of Phoenix appearing in this series was to set up a mini-series done by a completely different writer, which I have reviewed that. It's The Resurrection of the Phoenix. The Return of the Adult Jean Grey. Which she did get a chance to meet her. Yep. And she also got to meet with Doctor Strange, so that was interesting as well. Yep. And the first place she goes on a day off is she goes to Japan. Which I'm thinking, Jean Grey is going to Japan. That's something Wolverine does. He goes to Japan. Or Jubilee, not Jean Grey. I don't think, here's kind of the strange thing about Jean Grey. I read a lot of comics featuring Jean Grey since I've been reading comics since 2004. Yeah, I've been reading comics now for 16 years. Here's kind of the interesting about this. Prior to this book, I don't think Jean Grey has ever stepped foot in that country. I mean, the only countries I can think of she's been to Canada, she's been to the UK, I think she's been to France, and that's it. She's never been to Japan before, which I thought this was interesting. And she said, oh yeah, despite the damages, she actually volunteered to pay for it. And I'm like, okay, where did she get the, like, this is it probably, my personal guess is the reason she had to pay for it is because of war and because she's friends with Angel, who happens to be a rich playboy. Yeah. Yeah, the X-Men do appear in here, but they're not the primary focus of the series. This type of series is called Jean Grey, and they're the supporting characters. Jean Grey is the focused character of the series, and she is the star, and it's all about her because she's a title character. You got at least got to appreciate the fact Dennis Hopeless write the series that way. Now, despite this, they actually did kind of replace this series with X-Men Red. Yeah, that's not a joke. They seriously did. They ended the series and replaced with X-Men Red. Then the character was featured in Extermination after this. But for the first... Oh yeah, this book also featured the return of Hope Summers. Yes, Hope Summers. I was looking at the back like, oh yeah. Hope Summers makes a return in this series. Make her first appearance in Cy Spears' X-Force series. Yeah, so at the time this book came out, she had made an appearance in a comic book in 2 years. Yes. I think this book also features a return of the Juggernaut. Yeah, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he did return for this book, which that was interesting. Yes, the frickin' Juggernaut. Though in the first issue, she basically takes out the frickin' Wrecking Crew. Yes, a group of four guys who are a construction team, and Thor has trouble with these guys. That's not a joke. Jean Grey took down 4 guys that the male Thor has had trouble with over the years, taking him down himself, and Jean Grey takes him out pretty easily. Though the amount of damage she's able to prevent is actually quite interesting. She only, inadvertently causes not much damage. She causes destruction to windows. I don't think any businesses are ruined. Nope. Yeah, it's quite interesting if actually written that way. And, meeting up with Namor's interesting because here's kind of interesting about Namor. My only guess is the reason why she's met with Namor because he's a past host of the Phoenix Force. Okay, fine. Hope because she's in contact with it. Psylocke has had some contact with it, but she's never been host to it, even though she's a telepath. As for Thor, because he fought the damn thing. Yeah, that's my personal theory on the matter. But this book only contains the first 6 issues of this series. Yep. A series that lasted for 11 issues. That's not a joke, it's seriously. These 6 issues also had, believe it or not, 4 artists on them. The first 3 issues done by Victor Isbell, which is a very good artist. Issue 4 is done by Harvey Talabo. Issue 5 is by Anthony Piper. And the final issue in here is done by Paul Davidson. The cover art is done by David Yardin, which I love this cover. It's fantastic. This book overall is really good. I give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. It is really damn good. I highly recommend checking this out, despite the fact this is part of one of those initiative books that came out after the events of Humans vs. X-Men. But it's a damn good book. And ignore the crap that some people think that this is a extreme feminist series. It is not. It is definitely not. Yeah, whoever put this series on that list is an idiot. Alright, moving on to a book featuring a guy. Though, there's no title book in this particular book. This is basically a book that collects short stories featuring this character. This is Showcase Presents Robin the Boy Wonder, Volume 1. Of 1. Yeah, this is the only one they published. That's not a joke. This was the only one they published. Yeah, this book collects very short stories from these following issues. From the series of Batman Detective Comics, Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, Justice League, and World's Finest Comics. So Batman, you got in here one backup story from 162, 192, 184, 213, 217, 227, 229, 231, 234, 236, 239, 242, 244, 246, 248, 250, 252, and 254. Detective Comics, 386, 398, 390. I don't know why that was backward. Maybe it was a typo. 394, 95, 494, 445, 447, 450, 451, Superman's Power Jimmy Olsen, 91, 111. Just Like America, 91, 92. World's Finest Comics, 141, 147, 195, and 200. Wow, that's a lot of issues. And these issues came out from the period of 1969. They had the Batman issue, the Origin of Robin here first. Then they had from 64 to 75. Yes. And these stories, like the Elongated Man ones, are really short. Some range from be about 10 pages, some range to about 8 pages. And these are the various writers who worked on this thing. These writers were Ed Nelson Bridwell, Edward Hamilton, who wrote a good chunk of these, John Broome, yes, John Broome, the guy who helped create the Barry Allen Flash, Leo Dorfman, Gardner Fox, who wrote a couple issues, Cary Bates, Mike Frederick, who wrote a good chunk of these issues. Yeah, he wrote a lot of the Robin issues. Yeah, he wrote like a good chunk of them. Frank Ribbons, who wrote like a handful of them. Denny O'Neil, who wrote the Batgirl one because he helped create Batgirl. Let's see. There was also Bob Haney, who wrote the Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, and he wrote the World's Finest issue. Mostly, it's all like a lot of it's Mike Frederick. Let's see. There was also like after a while he stopped. I think it was the last Robin story he wrote was Just Like America 92. That was the last one he wrote. And then you have Elliot S. Morgan, who does it for a little while. Then Frank Ribbons. Mostly just Elliot S. Morgan for a while until like the last 4 issues done by Bob Rashkins. Heck, there's even an issue in here where the artwork is done by Mike Grell. Yeah, it's in the comics 445. Now, with the exception of Just Like America 91, 92, mostly put, it's just Robin dealing with stuff at Hudson University. That's where a lot of these stories take place. Hudson University is a college. Yes, because Robin left Nest, so go off to college. Yep, that's simply just of it. And outside of the Robin backup stories from Detective Comics and Batman, they threw in here issues from Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, at least 2 issues of it, where he teams up with Jimmy Olsen. Excuse me, like one where he just gets his hands on a jewel that allows him and Robin to become separate from Superman and Batman and become their own crime fight. Heck, they even got their own base operations, and this base also made an appearance in one Air story, but that was simply it. A lot of the Air stories, simply after like a little while we read this book, it's like a lot of like 70s political stuff. Like a lot of the stuff basically the Bronze Age was known for. Very dark and edgy stories. And this worked for Robin because he comes from a character who's known for being dark and brooding. So this type of stories work for Robin. It worked well for Green Arrow too in the 70s when he was reinvented by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. So yeah, Robin worked perfectly fine. And in case you're wondering, does he ever change his costume in here? Well, he changed it once for the Justice League issues. Yeah, I'm surprised though they threw in those issues in here. Now, in the case of Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, because he guest stars a team-up issue, but Justice League, despite the fact that those two-part, my only guess is the reason why I threw those issues in here, and this is my personal theory, is because Rob appears here as a guest star, and plus he gets to interact with his Earth 2 counterpart. Yeah, who is an old man. And let me show up this guy's goofy costume. Like, I'm not talking about Dick Grayson's classic look. No. I'm not talking about that one. Which, by the way, here's kind of the interesting thing about Dick Grayson, with the exception of this one issue. Now, despite what they did with him in the New 52, he wore this outfit since his debut, and he stopped wearing it when he stopped being frickin' Robin. And the thing with the Earth 2 Robin is, this is the Robin made his debut back in the 30s, World War II. This very Robin. That's not a joke, he seriously did. And this costume did make appearance in like one other story. Yes, one other story. Yeah, like recently, this character also appeared during Convergence. Yeah. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, I'm sorry about that thing with black. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Here is Robin. Look at this silly costume. Like, Basically, it's a merge between Batman's costume and Robin's costume. Yeah, it's like he put the R on top of the bat symbol. He removed the cowl, and he wore this outfit. He wore this outfit in the JSA's own solo book, All Star Comics, and he featured this also in Adventure Comics as well. And he wore this in the 70s. After the 70s, this version of Rob would not appear again. He did appear in Crisis on Infinite Earths, but after that, he appeared again until Convergence, Detective Comics, wearing this silly costume again. And here's kind of the reasoning for this. It's explained in story, and this has been canon for years. The reason why he wouldn't put on the Batman costume because he felt as though he didn't deserve it. He didn't want the role. He just wanted to be Robin. Despite the fact that Dick Grayson, by the appearance of him, was not a teenager anymore. He looked like a man probably in his 50s. I'd say 40s, 50s-ish. I'd say 40s. Yeah, he had gray in his hair. Robin, of course, in here is not... That's why I think he's called the Boy Wonder. Here, he's a lot of the time in stories, he's referred to as the Teen Wonder because Robin is a teenager. Yeah. Now, here's kind of the interesting thing about this. He was basically, at the same time these stories were coming out, he was also featured in Teen Titans. Yeah. But outside of Teen Titans, he got this. Yep. Though this was not the first step that DC had to give him his own solo stories. They did this during the Golden Age as well, which that has been entirely put in the trade. But not his Silver and Bronze Age stories, yes. That's kind of quite interesting, though. The rest of his other books, other issues that he featured in, were never collected. None of them. Yeah, he also featured in Batman Family for a while, and then he was featured in Detective Comics for a little bit, and then the feature had to stop because he could feature New Teen Titans. Though eventually, by the 90s, they eventually gave him his own solo book again, though an ongoing series with him as a starring character. Yep. This, by far, is a really good book to read. I do recommend it. Yes, it's in black and white, but I love this stuff. It's fantastic. I give this book roughly a 10 out of 10 because of how damn good it is, and I enjoy stuff like this. Now, some of you are probably thinking, wait, why am I reading something that came back in the 60s, 70s-ish when I should be reading something happening modern day? Because I feel like it, and I love these characters. I plan to get more of these. This is not the first book I reviewed. I own several other Showcase books behind me. Now, I love the Showcase line. It's by far a really good thing. And here's something quite strange about this particular line. This line stopped like 2 years after Marvel's Essential line ended. Yeah, Marvel's Essential line ended in 2013. This line ended in 2015. I actually own the last official book they released, which was the Blue Beetle book. Now, it made sense. That was like one book. This, you can easily do like one more, and that's all you can do for the character. Elongated Man, you can probably do at least one or two more books. There's one character who actually has a similar style book to this, Green Arrow. You can do like a half a dozen books because he had like a ton of solo stories over the years. Like, if you look up basically a solo feature for Green Arrow, you're like, wow, this guy had a ton of he appeared a lot of time in backup features up until he got his first solo book in the 80s. And eventually, it was a miniseries and eventually got in the 90s. Robin, on the other hand, Dick Grayson never got a title book with the only time he got a book where he was Robin and Robin was the title of the series was Robin Nero by Dick Grayson. That was by far the first and only time he ever got a chance to be Robin in a solo book with him being Robin. Now, the reason why this is because since the 1980s he's been Nightwing, with the exception of a few times he's been Batman or still with some other identity. And mostly for DC likes to have his Nightwing. Yeah. And him becoming Robin again is, for a lot of people, like, they don't want to see that. No. And I do agree. Having him go back being Robin is, in my opinion, and a lot of people basically agree with me on this. If Dick Grayson becomes Robin again, like, it's a step backwards in character development. Him going from Batman to Nightwing, that's fine. I don't think anybody had a problem with that because people knew that him being Batman was only going to be temporary until they bring back the actual Batman. So, or him basically putting on the cape and cowl, not really a big problem. and him go back being Nightwing, because Nightwing is his own separate thing away from Batman. Of course, currently now, Robin is currently Batman's biological son, Damian Wayne. Has been Robin since 2009. Yeah, surprisingly, despite the fact the reboot they had in 2011, they kept him as Robin, and of course Dick Grayson back being Nightwing. Yep. But not much else to say about this book. What rating do I give this book? I give this book a 10 out of 10. It is damn good. I love it. And I eventually plan to get more. Yeah. Which one I'll probably get next? I don't know. Depends what Comic Con I go to. But I was looking up to find this damn thing in the last Comic Con I went to. Because here's kind of the strange thing about the Central Florida Comic Con was all the booths I went to except one sold no trades. Which I thought that was weird. Like, normally when I go to the Comic Con, I usually find trades. Even at the Toy Comic Con, I found trades. But Central Florida Comic Con, nope, no trades. Manny Orlando, probably going to get trades there. But yeah, not much else to say about this. Yeah, so that's it for this particular review. I have roughly 2 more videos I'm going to do. Next one soon will be a review of the newest episode of Black Clover. Excuse me, along with newest chapter manga, and also I'm hopefully going to review of the first 6 OVAs for Rama Half. Okay, so roughly, yeah, it's 2 videos, okay? Do this next video. Bye.